The whole point of investing, yes, it is to build generational wealth. It is to make passive income. It is to leave all these lessons behind for our kids and leave a legacy. Yes, but at the end of the day, this is all about shaping ourselves into who we want to become. You can lose everything, but at the end of the day, who you're forging yourself into, that's always going to stay with you. And so, who do you want to be? Reinforce that identity. We're going to talk about how to deal with tough times. And so we have a framework. We call it the L.A.S.E.R framework. It helps you cut through the chaos. So we're all going to go through tough times in life, in business, in investing. And when you do go through tough times, the tough part about tough times in investing is you don't have someone who is always with you. And you need this framework to be able to cut through that chaos and to be able to kind of realign yourself, right? That's what's needed. So that's what we're doing right now. So the acronym is L.A.S.E.R. The letter L stands for leadership. You're a leader in your community, you're a leader in your business, you're a leader in your family. If you think about some great leaders, they have not just been through great times, they haven't just seen success. The true test of your leadership in your life is when you go through tough times. And so when you go through it, think of it as that's the repetition that all of us need to be able to be better leaders. If I didn't have the reps of tough times when our portfolio was small, I wouldn't be able to deal with being a great leader for a larger portfolio. So when you go through tough times, just remember that your leadership is something that you're developing and it's setting you up as you build a larger portfolio. The letter A, so L.A.S.E.R, we went through. L is leadership. Second letter is A, accountability. When we're kids, and I always give this example, when we're kids, we don't do something right. Our parents hold us accountable. They keep our negativity in check and they'll say, they don't say, of course, you're an idiot. Of course, you should never try that again, right? What do we tell our kids? What do we say? We say, you can't think about things like that. You have to realign yourself. You have to think of the positives. You have to think of your strengths, all of those things, right? So you hold them accountable. You keep their negative attitude in check. And maybe at work, if you have a W-2, you have your employers holding you accountable. But in business, you have your community. That's who is going to hold you accountable. You have yourself. Self-accountability is important. So when you are going through a tough time, you have to really think about it from the perspective of holding yourself accountable. Are you coming into that problem as a leader, the leader that you want to be, right? You have to hold yourself accountable and do what's right with that positive mindset. And what happens is when you don't deal with it with the right mindset, you end up making the wrong decisions. And I have faced that so many times. If one project is going through a tough time, when you have another deal that crosses your desk, you're going to make the wrong decision on that deal. You're not going to do a good deal because you're too scared, because you didn't hold yourself accountable and kept your negativity in check. Which leads me to the letter S, stop catastrophizing. Catastrophizing refers to a cognitive distortion where a person exaggerates the potential negative consequences of a situation or event, imagining the worst possible outcome. You think that you're coming to the closing table sometimes and something small goes wrong with the deal and you suddenly think that you can't trust anybody who's involved in the business. Our survival instinct kicks in sometimes and we start catastrophizing. What else could go wrong? What else did I not look at? Maybe they're just crooks. This whole deal is horrible. So when you learn how to deal with challenges, you come across as a much more legit person, an easier person to work with. Yeah. I demand a lot from the people who work with me, but I provide the stability that you guys should as leaders in your business. You are the rock in the business. You provide that stability. The letter E, so that was S. The letter E stands for embrace uncertainty. And this is the hardest part about life, about business, about investing. It's all uncertainty. And especially as you see, the political climate is going to continue changing over time. The interest rates are going to continue changing. The housing market's going to continue changing. Your neighborhood's going to change, right? Your tenant pool is going to change. the way you are, you are going to evolve. And with all that comes a level of uncertainty. And I think developing that relationship with uncertainty, like how do I deal with uncertainty and how can I deal with it better? That is a muscle that you need to continue flexing. When I think about uncertainty and I think about thousands of years ago when we were in caves or we didn't have the modern day medication, a cold could turn into an infection and could kill you. When we were primitive men and women living in caves, you didn't know if you were going to wake up the next day. There was so much more uncertainty. You could be attacked by a bear overnight. So much more uncertainty in the past than it is today. But our body, our brain still reacts the same way that it did before, right? And so you have to remind yourself like this, our survival doesn't depend on a lot of these things that we think does, but it really doesn't, right? There is not as much uncertainty anymore. And embracing, and I say this as if I figured it out. I have not. I'm going to tell you guys, I have just managed to deal with a larger amount of uncertainty than I was dealing with before, right? Before, I would have been okay with $500 worth of uncertainty, 5K, then it turned into 50K, then it turned into 500K. Your level, your amount is going to go up. And then the last one, the letter R stands for reinforce your identity. And in tough times, I think that's the question to ask. We can all be our best during good times. Tough times, you want to ask yourself this question: who do I want to be? What kind of leader do I want to be? Who am I? And that's going to shape you into who you will become. The whole point of investing, yes, it is to build generational wealth. It is to make passive income. It is to leave all these lessons behind for our kids and leave a legacy. Yes, but at the end of the day, to me, over time, I've really learned that this is all about shaping ourselves into who we want to become. That's what it's really all about at the end of the day, because you can lose everything. But at the end of the day, who you're forging yourself into, that's always going to stay with you. That's the one thing that no one can take away from you. And so who do you want to be? Reinforce that identity when you go through tough times. When you're ready to get serious, you can join us at the investoraccelerator.com.
It's like getting 1,000 episodes worth of information in 5 days, and it's everything you need to build your actionable plan to financial freedom and making work optional.